Welcome, everybody, to Catfish Weekly. I'm Lyle. Cindy is in the other room, and tonight, would everybody please welcome Jr Cochran to Catfish Weekly? He will be our new co-host to the show. So I hope everybody enjoys his input. We're going to have some fun with JR. He has a different outlook on a lot of things, and I'm sure him and I will go to war with some stuff. At least that's the idea. We'll have a lot of fun with it, and we will enjoy our differences of opinion on a lot of things. And JR is a big what's that little boat you run around in, JR? We were just talking about that. Kayak. Any kayaks or canoes. I don't do no ice fishing. So you're going to have a different input on a lot of things that I don't do at all. So that ought to be fun.
I'm sure I will.
Now, Doc.
I don't think I'm going to see Lyle running on some docks.
No.
Did you ever see that? Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I did see that. I'm not doing that.
I do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, you do, and I enjoy that. A lot of things that you do in your videos is stuff that I might have done 30 years ago, but I ain't doing it now.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, that's some cool stuff, and we'll get a different perspective from the things that you do and the things that we do, and I just think it'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a blast, and welcome to Catfish Weekly.
Welcome, everybody.
Bank Pole Joe's in here. Jay's catfishing. Nitro Whiskers catfishing. Sean Abney. Jason. Oh, you guys are going too fast. Mike Irwin. Jason DeRoshi. Avid Catfisherman. Muskrat Adventures. Patriot Catfishing of America. Patriot James, one of my favorite of all time guys.
Who's that? I've never heard of him.
You never heard of Patriot James? I know better. I know better. I'm looking for him over here on YouTube. I've got a couple of, what guys don't realize, I have a couple of things going, a couple of computers going that I do 2 or 3 different things on. JR, one of the things we probably ought to mention and talk to tonight, right off the bat, my Red Festiva. I've not seen that one. That's a new one for us. Catfish Bill 66. How you doing, buddy? This coronavirus. Very serious stuff. I still have mixed feelings about how it got started, what it's all about, all the stuff that's going on with it. But it is serious, and we need to everybody stay in unless you have to get out.
It's very serious.
Yeah,
you got a lot of people downplaying it. Everybody's preaching wash your hands. I don't know if anybody knows this, but soap doesn't actually kill the virus. Soap just gives it something to cling to, and then you just rinse it right off. So you're just rinsing the virus off of your hands with soap. And all this virus wants to do is reproduce. That's its number one goal. Is just reproduce. That's the only thing it can think to do.
I'm not sure they know how it got started or where it come from or how it got to be so progressive, but it's very aggressive, and we need to let the professionals get it under control, get it handled, and get it moved on out. And get back to the way of life we're all used to living.
Amen to that. Yeah.
But in the meantime,
try the social distancing. I know that it sounds silly, but it's really the best thing that we could be doing right now. I catfish, so my hands are torn up. You can see I got like cuts all over them from yesterday, and that's one of the ways you can get the virus. Any kind of open wound, any kind of scratch you have on your hands, anywhere on your body, a virus can get in that way. Breathing, it can connect to your mucous membrane in your nose. So it's good to stay away from people.
Well, one of the other
as much
things,
as you can.
it stays in the air a certain amount of time. It stays on contact surfaces a certain amount of time.
Up to 7 days.
Yeah, and everything it touches or is associated with it is a different time period. And this is all things that they're coming out with the more they study it. And I think that is the technology that we have today. They're finding out things so much faster than they did years ago. It's unbelievable, but I'm happy about that. I really am.
If you watch the Marvel movies, the Ant-Man, I'm sure some of you guys know who the Ant-Man is. You know, he can get so small. Well, this virus is 1,000 times smaller than bacteria. It's literally 1/1,000,000th of an inch. So you can imagine how easy something that small would be to spread.
Wow. Well, everybody just needs to do the best they can, take care of what they can do, and go fishing. You know, JR, I don't know about your kayak, but I know your other boat and my boat. If you're in one end of it and I'm in the other end of it, we're far enough apart. We're not going to bother each other.
Hey, if I go fishing with you, then I'm going out on a limb and saying that hoping you don't have the virus.
That's it. Yeah. You know, I went to the doctor about my shoulder last Friday, and they run the thermometer thing across our forehead when we walked into the place. But I got to tell you, I've never been to a doctor's office where there was me and one other guy. That was it. There was not taking anybody. And if it hadn't have been something pretty important on my shoulder, they would have probably canceled me, you know, and that's fine. That's awesome that they do that, because there's no sense of pass. If you got something, why would you pass it around? I mean, I'm all over that, but they did want to get it taken care of, and that's wonderful. But they got me in, got me out. We got to stop by. Cindy didn't wink at the little girl. She should have winked at the little girl. She got a little 4-pack of TP. I got a 12-pack one. I went up there. I was happy about that. I told her, I said, you should have winked at that little gal.
When all else fails, wink.
Hey, whatever it takes to get it. When, you know, like I told you earlier before the show, you and I was talking about that. We hadn't bought any in 2 weeks, and we was running pretty low. And if it means you got to do something to get it, then you got to do something to get it.
What is that 90s country song? All you got to do is just give me that wink.
That's exactly right. But we was to the point where we was going to be in trouble pretty quick. And Cindy went in and bought some. And I said, come back to that doctor's appointment. I said, man, do you think I ought to stop in there and get 4 more rolls? Because if one of us gets a stomach virus of some kind, we might be in trouble. And I did. And the girl went back and she brought out a 12-pack of the good stuff. And Cindy said, "Did you wink at her?" I said, "Well, of course I did. Whatever you got to do to
let me ask you this: what was the good stuff? What is Lyle's preferred toilet paper
or something? It didn't matter.
Angel Soft.
I mean, it didn't matter to me what kind it was. It could have been single ply.
That's that grandma's toilet paper.
Hey, I kind of fit that.
That stuff will stop your. Won't that like stop your pipes up or something?
Dude,
won't that stop things up?
When you're down to 1 or 2 rolls, it don't really matter. Oh,
yeah, I'm not picky.
No.
Anything's better than a washcloth.
You betcha. That's right. We was glad to have it, and it like I say, it's a terrible thing. Of all the things that what gets me, JR, of this, we could go in any of the stores here in town and you can buy all the hand soap and dishwashing soap and stuff like that you want, but you can't buy a roll of toilet paper. But you can buy soap and stuff like that and get all of it you want.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense to me, but that's
some of these department stores, I think, are actually bringing it out in increments. So
yeah, I think you're right.
If the shelves are empty, just kind of hang around a little bit, do a little more shopping or whatever, and then come back. You know, there might be a couple more rolls on the rack.
Yeah. Oh man, Justin Fishing Fetish had a quick one there, but I can find it now.
I'll help you find it. I use mismatched socks. Justin Fishing Fetish.
I've been that out in the woods deer hunting before.
Oh yeah.
Michael
a sock will save you.
Cindy's talking about making cinnamon rolls and trading a cinnamon roll for a roll of paper. So You never know. She won't make none for me anymore. Something that a lot of guys don't know. I smoked from the time I was 15 years old. I'm 62 now, so 40 some years I smoked a lot. And I could quit anytime I want to. I always knew that I could. I did for months at a time before. And come last November, I decided that I was pretty much done. And I put them down and never picked them up again. And a lot of people say that that's good and not good, and maybe it is and maybe it isn't. The thing that gets me is you gain 40 pounds just right away when you quit smoking. And that bothers me because now I'm going to have to do something to get rid of some of that. Do I miss them? Every minute of every day. But I don't miss them as much as I thought I would. You know, you catch yourself thinking about it. If you don't think about it, you don't do anything. And if you stay busy, which I try to do, but the thing that gets me is I eat. And I don't eat anything from the time I get out of bed in the morning until sometime in the afternoon. But from that point on, until I go to bed late in the evenings or early in the mornings, I pretty much eat all the time, and that kills it. But the quitting was not hard. I don't know. You just lay them down, you don't bother them. And it's been, let's see, November, December, January, February, March, almost 6 months. So it really wasn't hard to do, but I'm going to have to figure out something because it's getting hard now to do anything else, and we're going to have to figure that out because I don't want to gain all that weight. But quitting smoking was not nearly as hard as I anticipated doing.
And if you start chewing hard candy, you're going to just rot your teeth out. So
yeah, I told Cindy I had some in here, and I started that here. She bought a couple of things of that, and I ate one. I said, "You got to take this out here." I'm just sitting here eating it, and you got to just take it out. I don't want none of that. So yeah, so there, you just get into habits, and that's all they are habits. And
yeah.
But man, I like to eat, and if she made cinnamon rolls for them guys trying to swap them out, I'd be in trouble because I'd be eating them before they ever got done. How was fishing yesterday, JR?
Well, it's the end of March, and we're into early spring. And I went and done a little tail race fishing yesterday, and it's I reservoir fish. I fish a lake. I don't even really fish the river section of the reservoir. I actually fish down into the lake section of the reservoir. And typically I use circle hooks. I'll use a octopus, not an inline circle, but an offset circle, A-Dot Gamakatsu. That's normally my preferred hook. And yesterday I did a little tail race fishing, and I was fishing a rocky bottom. And when you get to this tail race, you can visually see a lot of rocks sticking out of the water, and the bottom undoubtedly is the same exact terrain, because you can hold the rod in your hand and be bouncing along the bottom, keeping the line taut, and as you're feeling the bottom, you can feel the bottom, raise up, drift 2 feet, and then all of a sudden the bottom's not there anymore, and you got to let out 4, 5, 6 feet of line. So that tells me that bottom is a bunch of big boulders. So, and those catfish will actually be down in the crevices between those high and low spots. Oh. And what's funny to me is, like I said, I use the offset octopus circles, Gamakatsu's, A-Dots, and I was missing fish one right after another. And the hooks, I've been using these hooks for years, and they're money. I don't ever lose a fish on a reservoir. But this type fishing, I was losing them, man. I was cranking down. I was loading that rod up, and I was getting fish were coming off, and it was pissing me off because these fish were good fish. I could feel them. You know how when you load that rod up and it kind of comes back down with you, and you're like, whoa, and you kind of feel him for a, I would reel down, I would load up, reel down, load up, and then it'd get off. And it was a heartbreaker, and that was happening to me a lot. So I think the next time I go, I'm going to use something different. I think I may go with a Kale, maybe one of those Charlie Brown, what do you call them, double action, dual action, whatever. I'm a big J hook, the big Gamakatsu river hook.
Yep.
Yes, sir. I'm going to try. Definitely going to try something different. I'm going to start parting their eyes.
That's right.
Tat. When it goes tat 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 tat, when it goes tat tat, I'm gonna part their eyes. That's my plan. That's my game plan next time.
That's a great plan. We had a guy asking about the rig you got on the rod and stuff behind you, but we talked about this before the show started, and that big river Gamakatsu, what's the matter with my thing here, is a great hook. I use them on big rivers and stuff. They never break. They're extremely sharp. And I'm telling you, I don't care what gets a hold of it. You can lay it on them bad boys, and they will hurt them. They'll hurt them. They'll stick.
Yes, sir.
They'll stick anything. And I've got big Kale hooks. I've used them all, but that is my favorite. And like I say, if it gets anything solid, it's going to hurt them.
I think where I was fishing, it's a lot of short strikes, but it's not your typical short strikes where when you're fishing on a reservoir where it's one or two short strikes, and if you miss the fish, you're done. This is just a lot of short strikes consecutively, and I feel like when it's like that, I feel like a J hook or any hook where you have to set the hook is the type of hook to use. I think I'm pulling the hook right out of the fish's mouth using the octopus circles.
Yeah. I use those a lot from different companies. There's several companies that make an octopus circle hook, or 2 or 3 different ones, and they all work good. But for what
I will say this. Now I'm not drifting down a river. What I'm doing is I'm basically suspend fishing. Is what I'm doing, and I'm fishing near spillways, and they're usually running a couple turbines, and I'm usually in some like an eddy type, not a lot of current really. I'm kind of like in an eddy, basically.
That's a great way to do it. Like I say, just give them just a second to hold that thing and lace them up. I like doing that.
That's the game plan.
You know what?
That is the game plan.
I think we all started fishing like that when we was kids before any of us ever used circle hooks. You laid it on them. And I use circle hooks almost 100% of the time, but for back bottom bouncing, I use them big Gamakatsus, them big rivers, and I'm telling you.
Put some stank on it. Put some stank on it.
There's nothing like that in the whole world. I mean, it's just a feeling that you can't get over. You just can't. You never forget it. I love it.
Yep, I went fishing with Zachary Taylor. He's a Southeastern. He fishes the Southeastern tournament. Drawing a blank on it. It's the Southeastern Catfish something or another, but it's a tournament trail here on the Catawba and the Yadkin, I want to say. He fishes out of a Storm Cat, and he's a good angler. He puts a lot of big fish in the boat. Zach is a very good tournament angler, and every once in a while he'll call me up and he'll want to go kayak fishing. So anytime he calls me up and wants to go kayak fishing, I try to take him up on it.
Heck yeah, man. Heck yeah. I'm really concerned about the boat ramps closing. I know you and I talked about this, about you guys having to drag your kayaks up and down the boat ramps and stuff. And one of the things that with all this virus stuff going around is Corps of Engineers in our area shut down some of the boat ramps that they control. And kayaks, you was talking about how far you had to carry your kayaks up and down the ramp, and that's a pain in the butt. if you can't get a regular boat in, you either got to use private ramps or city owned or state owned or something where they haven't shut those down. That is going to be an issue in some areas if they don't get a handle on this. My theory is, how can they stop you from using a boat ramp? I haven't figured that out yet, because you're not congregating, you're getting in a boat. I haven't figured that out yet. I haven't figured out thinking now behind it.
That may be the reason they let us go, because the gates were closed, and we dragged our kayaks down. It wasn't probably maybe a 1/16 of a mile, and we dragged them back. We got caught. The cops were coming down the road as we were dragging our kayaks back to our trucks, and they said, "Go wait till you got a driver's license." And they said, "Go wait at your truck. We'll be back with you." And I just knew for sure that we were gonna, at the best case scenario, we were gonna get a ticket for trespassing.
Yeah.
So me and Zach go back to our trucks. We let our kayaks up. We wait 10, 15 minutes, and the cops come back, and they're cool. They let us go. They said, "Guys, we're just trying to protect you. The gates were closed, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have did what you did." So they were cool. They let us go, but they said that it's the public areas, the areas that allow gatherings, picnic areas, the ramps with shelters, with playgrounds. There's ramps on Lake Norman that actually has playgrounds. So it's those boat ramps, boat access areas that actually have areas where public can gather. Those are the ones that are shut down. If it's just a boat ramp, then it's still open. Okay, well, the ones that we normally use are not like that. Doc says, and welcome back. Hey, Doc, glad to see you in here.
Said in Ohio, the ramps are open till they drop the concrete barriers on them at the ramp. And Dieter says, what ramp did they get busted at?
Dieter, don't make me lie to you.
I don't, I haven't been out to see any of this stuff, but the core, like I say, most of the ramps that Cindy and I fish out of are just ramps and parking lots and bathrooms. And the reason for that is because those usually have less people in them, and we don't get tied up in line so long launching and getting the boat in and out. The ones that have the recreational areas and picnic tables and this and that and all the other stuff, those are the ones that's got tons and tons of people. Of course, right now, you're not supposed to be gathering up too many people, so I would say they wouldn't be very many people at that. But I do understand that a lot of them, there's a lot of people fishing because they ain't working. They're not doing anything else. So I'm guessing that a lot of them guys that are sitting around with plenty of time on their hand are getting out on the water and trying to catch a few fish.
Absolutely.
Around here,
there was guys that fish here locally. This past Saturday, Sunday, they said that the lake was like it would be on the 4th of July.
Wow. Yeah, it's just raining, and we've had some low 20-degree weather in the mornings here recently, and when we don't have that, it rains every day. So, but we're fixing to get it. I mean, we've had some nice weather, and it's going to break, but hopefully. This cold weather and all this rain is going to stop. But yeah, Doc, I'll bet it has. I bet it's really put a damper on your moving to Alabama. Of course, you're moving to Alabama, so if it knocks you out a day or two, it's going to probably be all right.
You asked me where I'd fish this weekend, and I was talking about tail race fishing. A friend of mine calls that high fence fishing. It's a hunting reference, I guess, for hunting plantations where they have like an 8-10 foot fence to keep all the exotic animals in or whatever. Right. I'm assuming that's what he means by that.
Probably so.
As far as reservoir fishing, my last 2 trips before this past weekend, I've been skunked. Now, I will say this. My last time out there, I actually saw Dieter at the ramp. He had been crappie fishing. I know why he'd been crappie fishing, because catfishing was sucking. But I put my kayak on my truck, and I was leaving. I was, and these guys were there. They had a YouTube channel. I forget their name, something TV. Everybody names their YouTube channel something TV nowadays. Real Deal TV. There you go. You go check them out. So I saw these guys, and I said, "Do you want some bait?" Because I had a cooler full of just gizzard shad and perch that I had caught in a cast down on Lake Norman the night before. And they were like, "Heck yeah!" They were so excited to get this fresh bait. And I was giving it to them, and they were showing me these pictures on their phone where they've been bank fishing, and they've been hammering monster flatheads from the bank. So that was my problem. I was fishing deep. Those fish are on the banks right now on Lake Wiley. So go throw your baits up on the banks on Wiley, guys.
So are the crappie and bluegills and stuff up on the banks, or just? I mean, there's going to be a reason them flatheads are up there.
There's a lot of guys around here that target crappie on Lake Wiley, and majority of them, what they do is they long line for crappie. I don't do that. I never target crappie on Lake Wiley except for bait, and I don't need but a handful. And the state I'm in, North Carolina, allows you to use crappie as long as you don't chunk them. You have to leave the carcass intact so it can be measured. So you can fillet them, or you could use the entire crappie. But anyways, I just catch enough crappie for bait. As far as targeting crappie, I don't do it on Lake Wiley. I target crappie on Lake Norman, and Lake Norman's primary source of structure is docks. There's 1 million docks on Lake Norman. So I shoot docks. That's how I catch crappie. And they're typically this time of year, you're catching them about any depth, 8 feet to 20 feet, even 30 feet. If there's brush on that dock, you're going to catch crappie right now.
So let me understand this, because we can't use crappie or bass or anything like that in Missouri. Now, you can't chunk.
I like how you say that, Missouri. So it's not Missouri, it's Missouri.
It depends on which one of the states you're on.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
Proceed, Lyle. Proceed.
Dixon line. If we use cut bait, some days, if you got shad, they want big chunks. Some days they want flayed off sides. Some days they want the head. Some days they want little chunks. If you're using those crappie, you got to use the whole crappie or a filleted side off of it. You can't use little chunks.
You can use anything you want as long as that carcass is intact.
In the boat.
You can. In the boat. You cannot.
Okay.
You cannot chunk that crappie any way, shape, or form. It's got to be intact so they can measure it to make sure any game fish that has to be measured. Even a bass, even though you're able to keep 2 bass of any length, you can catch a little baby bass and keep it. That's totally legal.
I got to tell you, JR, I have to tell you, we got on Lake of the Ozarks, they have 600 bass tournaments a year on that one lake every year. 600. And now, personally, I wish
that's a lot of tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of ramps on there, and every one of them have them. Every one of them every weekend. I wish they'd let us use bass for bait like that, just so I could cut them up and show them guys I was doing it, just to piss them off. Yeah. I mean, whether we caught anything on them or not, it doesn't make any difference. But
one of my favorite Dieter Melhorn videos is just that. He's catching, I want to say it was a pretty good catfish. It might have been one of his 50-pound videos. I can't remember, but it's an old video. It might have even been on his channel before he started his new channel. But he was like, "What is today's bait?" And he holds up a bass. And I want to say like the side is missing on it. And he's like, "Largemouth bass." He's basically saying, "Get you some of that, bassers."
Yeah, he's really cool about that. And Lindsay Knight, can you see the chat?
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay Knight just made a post
It's
on
a
that.
night. It's Missouri.
It's kind of explains.
If you're not from here, it's Missouri. If you are, I got you. So I can't say Missouri. I have to say Missouri because I'm not from Missouri. Okay, I got you.
Cat says Mizzou, which that's of course our college up in Columbia that everybody talked about. But yeah, it's there's a million ways to do it. It's kind of like every place else. But I watched Dieter the other night, and you guys watched him on Saturday night. He had a really good show. He talked about fishing and coronavirus and all that stuff. I really enjoyed that. He done a bang-up job on that. And for those of you that don't watch or don't know about it, Wednesday night, Patriot James does a show on Wednesday night at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. You need to tune in. He does a good job with that. I enjoy that. James does a
great show.
Great show. It's local to you Eastern fellas and ladies. But he does a lot of stuff that us folks in the mid-United States and out west is entertaining to us too. So be sure to tune in to Patriot James. You all would
invest in a thermocell, guys.
Yeah,
because insects, mosquitoes, fleas, any type of practically any living thing can get this virus. So yeah, you don't want to be out there.
No, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, even catfish. Catfish can get the coronavirus.
I haven't heard that. I'm glad that you brought that up because I did not know that at all. That
literally any living thing, even bacteria can get infected and be killed by the coronavirus.
Wow. Well,
but Lyle, what is your favorite type of fishing? What if seasonal? Whatever time of year, day, night, what have you? What would be your ideal fishing trip for catfish?
It used to be night fishing, but we got old and we got in trouble in a night tournament a few years ago. And unless I'm very familiar with a body of water, I don't do any night fishing. Or say I was with somebody that is capable of helping us out, I don't do much night fishing anymore. I dearly love drift fishing, and I love to pull planer boards. I really do. That's one of my favorite things. And if I'm on a lake I'm going to, I pull planer boards in heavy current on big rivers. A lot of people says you can't do it. Well, you can. You just got to be able to slow the boat down enough and let the current take the boards out. It works great.
The striper fishermen call that surfing.
Surfing.
They'll go with the current and they'll have their boards out.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever speed the current's going, if it's going 3 miles an hour, they're trolling 3 miles an hour.
Yep.
They call that surfing.
Well, I use the trolling motor to slow me down, but it's the same thing. You're just slowing everything down and letting it go backwards. But yeah, we do that. But my favorite right now is dragging boards on lakes. I dearly love doing that. It works out really great, and it just does. We catch a lot of fish that way. The lakes that I fish here in Missouri doesn't produce the giants for whatever reason, but we have regulations that was put in effect a few years ago, and eventually we'll get to some of those bigger fish, but we don't keep that many anyhow. But depending on how long everybody's out of work, we may start keeping a few more, but we
now,
never keep
as far as your clips on your planer boards, are you using the clips with the peg that keeps it from tripping as easily, or do you want your boards to trip?
I want mine to trip, and on the back side of them, I use a big old speed clip, and they just go right back to the bait, and then you're just dragging the fish up. I've taken.
So you're using a bead to keep that planer board from going down onto your leader, onto your hook.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. Yep. I don't have one set up here. I don't have one in here right now. I didn't know we was going to get off on that, or I'd have had one here where I could have showed it to you.
I'm sorry. No, it just came to my mind.
I use them both ways. And and I've lost fish unhooking them. You know what I'm saying? When you reel them up and you have one that's big enough that he fights.
Because it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna unload that rod
That's
a little
That's
when
right.
you're unhooking that planer.
Yep.
So,
and I want that to come unhooked on its own and be freewheeling out in the water and just go right back to where it goes to the leader and hit a bead down there and call it a day. And then when I reel it up, it's the planer board's right there with the fish.
You would almost be better hand lining that fish in when you unhook that planer. Instead of unloading that rod for that moment it takes to unhook that planer board, you just about be better off just going ahead and hand lining that fish in, keeping that thing nice and loaded up.
I think so. Yep. Dieter, I understand that the bash thing did get canceled. I wasn't going, don't know anything really about it, but I heard today that it did. You're right, Doc. When them big boards get buried underneath the water and it don't come up for several seconds,
or if you're in shallow water and it swirls, swirl and that toilet flushing, whoosh.
That's a fact. And I've got some big boards, and that's really awesome. But I've got some ones here that a guy gave me last year, and I never got a chance to use them. I'm really excited to try them out this year. Doc has told me that they go out to the side faster than any that he has ever used, and I'm really, really excited about trying them out this year. So I'll keep everybody posted on them. And I do have those here. And these are called bear planer boards, and they're made by Denny Iberg. And they are very nice. And I
like those clear boards.
Yeah, he says that these are the fastest thing, goes out to the side faster than any that he's ever used. And they're very lightweight. And Denny makes some really cool stuff. So I'm really excited about
that flotation, the foam being on the top and the bottom. I think it's why it really gets that speed as far as it getting out there real quick.
And they light. But now this, of course, I've not used these type of clips, but you can see there's nothing in there to hold that, and that's what I want. I don't want anything when it pulls loose from there. Then and this is set up just like I have my other boards. It'll just slide down, and this will come loose and just slide down, hit the bead, and when you reach down to dip net your fish, I shouldn't have done that. You dip net the fish, the planer board, all one whack, and that's how I want my board set up. But you can check these out. Denny Iberg makes these, and they are awesome. Heard nothing but good stuff about them, and I have 2 of them, and we're going to be trying.
I like those. I'm going to have to get a set of those.
I can hook you up.
Nice set of boards.
Yep, I really like them. Denny's a great guy, and I think that those would be awesome to play with this year. So we're really excited about them. I don't know what Cindy's talking about, but she's talking crap on me.
What are you talking about, Cindy?
Always talking crap on me in chat. Patrick Warren says he's got a set of bear boards and he likes them. That's good. Dieter says those are good boards. He has a set of them. Well, cool. I can't imagine. I talked to Denny at night a lot of times, and he says they're really good. So if he wouldn't be selling them if they wasn't any good. Denny's a great guy, so I know that they are.
Definitely beat the pool noodle boards.
Oh yeah, I'd have to. I don't want anything that's going to give me trouble. It's going to break, cause issues.
Yep.
I want stuff that's going to.
The pool noodles dry rot, and they turn into dust after a year or two.
Exactly right, James Dockery. You are 100% correct. What's your favorite way of fishing?
Mine?
Yeah.
My favorite way of fishing is clicker fishing. I like post spawn, July, get out there at 10 o'clock right after a thunderstorm, double anchor, and just turn the light. I got the T-top. My boat's got a T-top, so I slide these lights in my T-top, and it lights the boat up like daylight. and I got 12 rods out, and it's all good, fresh bait. And I just post spawn hungry fish on anchor. Yeah, that's how I like to roll, baby. Clicker fishing.
You do a lot of night fishing, the best I remember from your videos.
Yes, I didn't do a lot this past year. Now, the year before that and years before that, I hammered it in the summertime. I plan on hammering again this summer because I've been without my boat for a while. My trailer's been broke down. I need an axle. So I've been without it for a while. I've been kayak fishing.
Yep.
And that's purposeful. I've been doing that on purpose. I needed to use my kayak, but come post spawn, definitely going to be in my boat.
Yeah, I hear you. Junior Proctor, Blue Dog Fishing, posted a couple of videos yesterday. If you guys haven't seen those, you need to go over to his channel on YouTube and check them out. Some giant fish he caught with his grandson. It looked awesome. Great fish. Junior says he don't know if he could fish without boards anymore. I understand. I know you could because you don't have to use them, but they sure are fun and they're exciting. And again, caught a couple of giant fish. 2 videos he put out yesterday. You guys need to check those out. Let him know. Palmetto cats. I'll work on that. See what I can do about getting something done with Denny. JR, I got to tell you, them post-spawn fish are ready to go. When they come off that test, they're ready.
You got to have white rods.
Well, I don't. And the reason I don't is
you don't.
Fishing at night, we have so many lights on the boat. It's so bright you can read a book.
Right.
You don't need, it doesn't matter what rods they are.
You don't need to see your rods anyways. You're going to know when a fish is on.
Yeah.
Because I'm using such big baits. I mean, even if I don't know it, oh, well, I don't care because only the fish that I'm after, I'm trophy fishing, and I'm after the ones that you'll know it.
You're not after no
But I do like the white rods because they do look cool at night. When you got the lights on, they're reflecting the light, and it looks cool.
Yep, they do show up better. There's no question about that. There is no question.
And I'm fishing deep water, so I'm not really concerned about scaring the fish. Now, when I'm flathead fishing and I'm fishing points, anytime I shine a flashlight on the bank to see where I'm casting, I have a red flashlight. And because I know for a fact, when light hits that water, anytime, if you pull up to a dock light, for example, at night, you take your flashlight, you shine it on the water, you see the bait circling around the light. If you shine your light on that water, that bait's going to scatter. And when those flatheads are up on the banks in the summertime, they're up there eating on brim, because those brim on the lakes that I fish, those brim are all over the banks. Those flatheads are up there eating on them. And if you shine a light up there on that bank, those brim are going to scatter. Yep. So they're very light sensitive. The red light is the least visible light in the entire spectrum, I want to say. So I use it, and I've tested it on bait fish, and they don't scatter when you hit them with it. So anytime I'm looking at the bank, because I'm precision casting, when I'm anchored on a point, I want my baits staggered, but I want them to be very precisely placed along that bank and along that point. So I have to look in order to get them precisely. If you're out there on a new moon and it's pitch black, in order to get them exactly where you want them, you got to spotlight the bank. And anytime I do that, I'm using a red flashlight. So I'm spotlighting the bank with a red flashlight, and I don't have to worry about scattering the brim. If there's any flatheads in the area, if you scatter the brim, they're going to scatter too.
Yep.
So
there's a great question right here. Maurice Kaysen wants to know what your favorite flathead bait is.
My favorite flathead bait, I'm going to say it's a tie. It's going to be a tie between a bluegill and a perch, a white perch. I'm a big white perch fan. I love white perch. They tend to be hardy. You cut their fins off. You cut their fins off. You can even put a little slit. You can knock a couple of their scales off, put a little slit in their side, and they'll still. Because anytime I'm flathead fishing, I'm fan casting 10, 12 baits. Every one of them's alive. And you don't want, the last thing you want is one of those baits swimming around your boat and getting all your lines tangled. So I make sure I trim those fins. You trim those fins, they're going to stay in one little area.
That's good. Great information right there. What's your favorite rig?
My favorite rig is a Carolina rig with a bobber stop. And the reason I use that bobber stop is because if you're using a Santee rig, if you got a peg float on your leader, you cast that thing out there on a Carolina rig, what's going to happen is that peg float is going to pull your bait up through your sinker all the way to the surface of the water. So I had to learn that the hard way. Years ago, I'm anchored up at night. I'm fan casted. I sat out there all night without a bite. Daylight comes, I look around my boat. Every one of my baits are up on the surface of the water where my peg float has floated them through the sinker to the surface. So I'll put a bobber stop on there. I use rubber bobber stops, and that will prevent that peg float from pulling the line through your sinker up to the surface of the water. So I like that, but I also like, I don't know if you guys have seen them, but they're called quick links. And I'll either use a 3-way swivel, or I'll use a barrel, just a regular crane swivel, barrel swivel, what have you, ball bearing swivel, and I'll put a quick link on that top eye, and I'll connect my weight to it. And if you don't know what a quick link is, well, hang on, I'll show you one. I got my tackle box right here. This is a quick link. You can this thing's right here. And see, all it is, it's almost like a paper clip.
Yep.
And you attach that thing to your swivel, and you can attach your, now when you do use that, you have to use a sinker with a loop on it.
Right.
You connect that to that quick link, and you're set.
Yep. Yes, sir. Do you ever use a float to fish for flathead?
Slip float?
Yep.
Yes, I do. I typically, whenever I'm using a slip float, I'm not fan casting 12 rods, because if you use a slip float, you're going to get tangled unless you're only using a couple of rods. So limit your rods if you're going to slip float fish or balloon fish or whatever you're going to use to suspend your baits.
That's something else I wish that they would make more universal throughout the land, would be the number of rods. Do you guys have a limit on how many you can use in your?
Nope.
You see,
as far as I know, Dieter, if you're still in here, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say there's no limit on.
Here, we're allowed 2 per person on the Mississippi unless they're tagged, which by tagging, that means you either have to have your name, address on it, or you can use your conservation number, which is just given to you by the conservation department. Then you're allowed 33 hooks, which is strange, but that's kind of how it's done. But anyway,
so wait a minute, how many rods? 3 rods?
2 rods.
2 rods and 33 hooks. So they're basically talking about a trot line. Right.
Yeah, basically a trot line. But now Dieter says we have a rod limit. 157 is the limit. All righty then. But anywhere else besides the Mississippi, you're allowed 3 rods. But if you put your name or stuff on it, you can use more. But I would like to see that more universalized throughout the United States, especially in the tournament world. I think it ought to be there ought to be a standard. Say everybody get together and say we're going to make it 3 per person or 2 per person or 5 per person, whatever number they come up with.
If you were to come down here and get in one of our tournaments, you would see guys anchored in the back of a creek with literally 27 rods.
Yeah, see, to me, that's silly. I I don't want to have to go get that much friggin' bait. You know what I mean?
I know that's right. That's why if you see these guys, they got 40, 50, 75-gallon bait tanks.
Yeah. See, that's a lot. James Dockery says once you put your name on them here, they call them bank poles, and that's exactly right. They're no longer fishing rods. They're called bank poles. When you put your name on them, they're considered a bank pole, whether in your boat or not. So that's how you get away.
Wasn't there a company that was marketing and selling bank poles called Mud something?
That was the Mud Bum Boys. I believe they're out of business now. Yeah.
Are they?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're gone.
Shocker.
Yeah. Good guys. I enjoyed them guys. I didn't agree with everything they done, but they was great guys. We went up and done a live show at their grand opening when they was in business.
Really?
Oh yeah, we had a great time up there. They believed in CPR. They throwed back a lot of great fish, but
It's fun. I've done a little jug fishing in my time. There's nothing like, having a jug out there, especially if you got it out there at night. You got a glow stick or something, a light inside the jug, and you come up and you see that jug dancing along the water, and you see it go under. It's kind of like Jaws. The bigger the fish, you get a 50-pound blue on a jug, and it's taking it for a ride.
I still say that's one of the fastest ways to get kids involved in catfishing is to get them interested in catfishing.
That anticipation.
Eating size, and hot dogs is one fastest way to do it. A bunch of little jugs, noodles, whatever you want to call them, and let them reach down, grab them up out of an old John boat and pull them in. You don't have to keep them all. You don't have to keep any of them, or you can keep your limit. It doesn't matter.
Right.
When you're
talking
pound and a half size fish, them kids, they'll want to do it. They'll want to go. They'll want to catch fish. They'll want to learn how to do it. It's a fast, easy way, just like bluegill fishing. How many times you ever take a kid bluegill fishing that they didn't catch fish? It gets them involved in the sport. If you want to get kids involved in the sport, they're going to have to catch them. If they don't catch them, they're not going to want to go back.
Well, not necessarily. Just take them. Just take them fishing. Because with kids, it's the same way with us. When you take a kid fishing, just because he doesn't catch anything, he remembers that look on his dad's face. He remembers that Coleman lantern. He remembers that Zebco 33, the smell of the bluegill on the banks, that fishy smell, those mussels, all that and culture, he's encapsulated by it when you take him fishing. Yes, you definitely want him to catch something, but don't be afraid to take your kid fishing, even if you don't have confidence that you're going to catch anything. Take him fishing anyways, because like we all know now that we're older, it's not all about catching.
Nope. No, it's not. And for me, it's sure not all about cleaning them. That's the thing I hate about fishing.
Heck no.
And realistically, if we don't get one that's deep hooked or bleeding bad, he go back. I don't want to clean them. I just don't like to do it. But like I say, we may keep a few this year. We kept, I think, 3 last year. I went a spell of I think it was 16 years that I didn't clean a fish. We did let my son take some home one time, but Dad, he ain't clean them if he don't have to. I just don't like to do it. But it is what it is. Some people don't mind doing it. I just don't like to. I'd rather take Cindy out to the restaurant on the way home and pay them to fix me a meal of clean fish.
Yep.
Oh, man.
As far as the kids go, you want to keep them at least once. You want to give them that experience of at least watching you clean the fish and cooking them and eating them for dinner that night. That's part of the culture. And I think that it's good for a kid to experience that at least once. That's exactly right.
They need to learn it all, but they have to have a fun time and a fun experience. JR, I doubt if you've ever heard this story. Some of these other guys that are in here might have heard it, but one of the times we took our grandson, who is now 14. he was 7, I believe. We took him out on an all-night fishing tournament. It was Cindy and I, and we took enough stuff to eat for 10 people, and he had it all gone by midnight. At 2 o'clock, we was culling fish. He had fell asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he had named all the fish in the live well. He fell asleep. When he woke up, he had named them all, and the ones that he'd named was gone, and he was wanting to know where Dude was at. Well, Dude's done been turned loose and replaced, and he was smoking hot because we had done turned his named fish loose. But the first time he'd ever seen Asian carp jump through the air. He'd never seen that before.
So what did he name the fish?
And one of them was named Dude. That's the one he was mad at.
Dude.
Yeah, he was mad.
My daughter's first fish name was Lassie. We caught a little brim, and I threw it in the bait buck. I threw it in the cooler. I was going to keep it for catfish bait.
Yeah.
And she started to cry, so I had to take it out of and I put it in a 5-gallon bucket. I put some water in there, and it was swimming around. And she said, "Can we name it Lassie?" I said, "Sure, honey. We'll name it Lassie."
Whatever you want. Well, like I say, this was a night tournament. It was dark, and he stayed up. He ate everything we took with us. I mean, when he fell asleep, he done cleaned out everything we took for the whole night. It was gone. And, but he had a great time, and he would go again. That's the fun part. But he was 7 or 8 years old, and we couldn't get a babysitter. We was going to the tournament. He wanted to go, so we took him. And I remember it. I'm sure he does. Cindy does. And hell, we had somebody bring us a super bunch of stuff from McDonald's before we ever took off, and he ate all that too. So but that's kids, and he had a wonderful time. There's some of the stuff,
awesome.
Yeah, and that's the kind of things that I'll remember when I'm not able to go fishing, and hopefully he'll come by and we'll talk about that. And that's what makes it fun. And maybe he'll come around and take me fishing one of these days. You'd like to think so, anyhow.
Well, guys, everybody be safe. And I don't know if you know Howard Hughes, but look him up. Basically become Howard Hughes for the next little while until we get this thing figured out. I think that if you can stay at home, stay away from people, because I mean, the potential of this thing is serious, and I think we need to take it seriously. So everybody be safe.
Support your people in public office. Tune in next week on Monday night to Catfish Weekly. JR is going to come back and help us out. We appreciate you being here, buddy. I've had a wonderful time with you tonight. We'll get some stuff figured out and try to keep the show going and make it better and better and better. He's going to make it better for us. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in. See you next Monday night on Catfish Weekly.
See you guys.